Hey everybody, this is TJR. Over a month ago, I did an unboxing video of this. This is the Elton John Jewel Box set. And when I did that video, I said that I would return and review its contents. In this video, I'm going to review Discs 1 and Disc 2, entitled Deep Cuts. In his introduction, Elton talks about how hits like Rocket Man became so huge that they overwhelm all the rest of his work. This is not unlike a famous actor who becomes very famous for a particular role, and that's all anybody ever wants to talk to them about, and that's all they're remembered for. So on Disc 1 and Disc 2, entitled Deep Cuts, Elton takes us on a journey of songs that he has handpicked from his extensive recording career that he feels were overlooked. And he does this by giving us a track-by-track commentary in the book that accompanies this set. Now, at first, I was surprised that Disc 1 would open with a track from The Union. This was his duet album with Leon Russell. However, seconds later, I realized that I really shouldn't be surprised at all. Leon Russell was, after all, Elton John's piano hero. Of course, he would lead off with one of these. The Union album gets a total of 3 tracks on this collection, including Going to Shiloh, which features a guest appearance by Neil Young. Now, throughout these 2 discs are numerous revelations. I'm not going to share all of them, but just a few here. For instance, it never occurred to me that the instrumental solo on Mellow was a violin and not an electric organ, which is what I always assumed it was. In his commentary, Elton states that it was the first time that Jean-Luc Ponty had ever played electric violin, and that they plugged it into a Leslie rotating speaker, which gave it that organ-like quality. A similar trick was done to John Lennon's vocal on Tomorrow Never Knows. On the ballad of Danny Bailey from Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Elton discusses the instrumental jam section at the end, saying that it was performed live, although I'm assuming they had to overdub the strings afterwards, and that said jam probably kept going for another 4 to 5 minutes past the fade out on the record, which makes me hope that someday I will get to hear that extended version of Danny Bailey. One of my favorite deep cuts from Captain Fantastic is on this set. It's We All Fall in Love Sometime. And in his commentary, Elton John describes a beautiful acoustic rendition of that song that was performed by Jeff Buckley, and that sadly has never been released. And wow, I hope that someday we'll get to hear that. Now, one of my favorite Elton John tracks, and in fact I think it's a favorite of a lot of people, Funeral for a Friend. This track was a huge FM radio hit, so it's not in this collection, but he does reference it, stating that he has never been very good on the synthesizer, and that it was Dave Henschel, hopefully I've said that name right, who played that opening synth track at the beginning of the song. This explains why whenever he's performing it live, he never plays that. It's just the recording, the studio recording, and then when the piano begins, that's when the band starts to play the song live. Peachtree Road, one of his very underrated recent albums, was apparently recorded live. This really, really impressed me. I thought this was a really underrated album, and finding out that it was recorded live only increases my appreciation for it. There's also a very funny story about how he forgot that he ever recorded the track Hoop of Fire from Leather Jackets, an album that he regards as one of his worst. Now, this CD set eschews release order in favor of song flow. And while I do know a lot of these songs, I discovered that there is an equal portion on these 2 discs that covers a very large time period between 1979 and 2001, where I stopped buying Elton's albums. A Single Man from 1978 was the last album I would buy from Elton John in a very long time. You have to remember that before the age of streaming, radio was the only way to hear music before buying it in the US. How well I liked the radio singles for any artist who interested me would go a long way in deciding whether to part with my hard-earned cash on the album. And during this time, and with few exceptions, all of the radio singles released by Elton then just weren't speaking to me in the same way that his previous records had. Many music writers at the time remarked that 2001's Songs from the West Coast marked a return to form for the original Rocket Man. And its release also marked the return of me personally buying each and every subsequent release. But as I've gotten older, I've been telling myself that I really do need to at least listen to the studio albums released between 1978 and 2001. And I'm considering this Deep Cuts collection to be my first step towards that goal, kind of an appetizer before the main course. I'm happy to say that I would describe a good number of the tracks from this time period featured in the set as very pleasant surprises. One of my absolute favorites from this time period is entitled All Quiet on the Western Front from 1982's Jump Up. Hearing this track for the first time was a real "where has this song been all my life" moment. Also, the dreamlike quality of House from Made in England and Shoot the Moon from Ice on Fire have both gone a long way in getting me that much closer to checking out their respective albums. Other surprises included finding out and getting to hear David Gilmour playing guitar on Understanding Women from 1992's The One. Nothing in the promotional materials leading up to this release for Jewel Box indicated that anything on Deep Cuts was remastered for this set. But still I got curious, and I am nerdy about these things, so I took some time to compare those included on this compilation to their album counterparts, just to see. None of the tracks on Deep Cuts have been remastered. I think it's safe to say that all the tracks on Deep Cuts draw from the most recent remasters. Over the years, I have heard a lot of Elton fans say that the greatest hits package is all they're interested in. That's all the Elton they need. And I understand. There is only so much time afforded to us in this life, and there are plenty of artists for whom I feel that the greatest hits collection is all I need. That is until I decide that I need more than that, of course. Now, if you are a greatest hits fan, I want to recommend listening to Deep Cuts as a way of getting a little bit more immersed in his catalog. The Deep Cuts collection was released on vinyl, but I kind of wished he'd released it on CD too, and maybe he will in the future. But if he does, he definitely needs to include the track-by-track commentary that was in this book. You can also listen to the first 2 CDs of this collection along with the rest of the Jewel Box set on Tidal, Spotify, and Apple Music. You just won't get the track-by-track commentary. So that's part 1 of my review of Elton John Jewel Box. I'm going to be very frank with you and tell you that I don't see or feel any need to rush my way through this box set. I'm taking it a little at a time. I don't feel any need to rush through it just so that I can put out a review on it. In fact, I think I will do a better review if I take my time with it. Next, I get to jump into the most extensive part of this set, which is the 4 CD set of rarities. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all stay safe and healthy. Bye-bye.